Robert T. Kiyosaki is an American entrepreneur, investor, educator, and author best known for his financial education books, particularly Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Published in 1997, the book became one of the most influential personal finance guides of all time, selling over 40 million copies worldwide and translated into dozens of languages. Kiyosaki's philosophy challenges the traditional view of money and education. Instead of relying solely on formal schooling and stable jobs, he advocates for financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and investment as the true paths to wealth and freedom. His writing style combines storytelling with practical lessons drawn from his own experiences growing up under the guidance of two father figures, one rich, one poor. At its core, Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches that your mindset about money determines your financial destiny. It's not about how much you earn, but how you think, manage, and invest your money that matters most. Now, diving into the book summary, the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad begins in the small town of Hawaii, where a young boy named Robert Kiyosaki grows up torn between the teachings of two father figures. One is his biological father, a well-educated man with a PhD who believes firmly in the power of formal education and job security. He's what Robert calls his poor dad. The other is his best friend's father, a shrewd, self-made businessman with little formal schooling, but a deep understanding of money and investing. This man becomes Robert's rich dad. From a young age, Robert begins to notice how differently these two men think about money, success, and life. His poor dad tells him, go to school, get good grades, and find a safe, secure job. His rich dad, on the other hand, says, learn how money works. Don't work for money, make money work for you. This contrast plants the seeds of financial wisdom in Robert's mind. When Robert and his friend Mike ask Rich Dad how to get rich, he doesn't give them money or business advice. Instead, he teaches them through experience, making them work at one of his stores for very little pay. It's a frustrating experience, but it becomes their first real lesson. The poor and middle class work for money, while the rich make money work for them. Rich Dad explains that most people spend their lives trapped in a cycle, going to work, earning money, paying bills, and starting again. They call this the rat race. The key to escaping it is understanding assets and liabilities. Poor Dad might have degrees and titles, but he never learned how money truly functions. Rich Dad, without formal education, mastered the game of money by observing opportunities others overlooked. Robert realizes early on that his two fathers are not just men, they represent two opposing mindsets. One lives by fear and caution, the other by knowledge and risk-taking. And from this point forward, Robert chooses to learn from the man who teaches him how to think about money, not just how to earn it. As Robert grows older, Rich Dad's lessons deepen. He learns that money is not the problem, ignorance is. Most people believe that the lack of money causes their problems, but Rich Dad argues that it's really the lack of financial education. Money comes and goes, he says, but if you have the education about how money works, you gain power over it. Robert begins to understand that schools teach academic and professional skills, but say nothing about financial intelligence. The result? Even highly educated people often struggle financially because they don't know how to make money work for them. They rely on salaries, promotions, and job titles, illusions of security that can vanish overnight. Rich Dad insists that the most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If trained well, it can create immense wealth. But if neglected, it can create endless financial struggle. He challenges Robert to use his mind creatively to find opportunities, even in problems. When Robert complains about working hard for little pay, Rich Dad smiles and says, that's the lesson. Most people quit because they're afraid of not getting paid enough. But the poor and middle class let emotions control their thinking, fear and desire. The rich control their emotions, especially fear. This concept of emotional intelligence becomes crucial. Rich Dad teaches that when most people get a raise, they buy more things, bigger homes, nicer cars, and call them assets. But they're actually liabilities because they take money out of your pocket. Real assets, on the other hand, put money into your pocket. Things like real estate, stocks, or businesses. Robert's perspective shifts entirely. He begins to see that the poor work for money, while the rich invent money through ideas, investments, and systems. The key is not to earn more, but to think differently. The real wealth is mental, the ability to spot opportunities, to take calculated risks, and to never stop learning. In one of the most eye-opening lessons, Rich Dad breaks down the foundation of wealth into a simple concept. Know the difference between an asset and a liability, and buy assets. He draws two columns on a piece of paper. On one side, he writes assets. On the other, liabilities. He explains, an asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. It's that simple. Yet it's a lesson most adults never truly grasp. Robert learns that most people misunderstand what wealth really is. When they buy a big house or a new car, they think they're building wealth. But those things come with taxes, maintenance, and payments, all of which drain cash flow. Meanwhile, the rich focus on building and owning things that generate income even when they're not working. Rental properties, businesses, stocks, intellectual property. Rich Dad emphasizes that the rich don't work harder, they work smarter. Their money works for them 24/7. They build systems and make investments that produce income while they sleep. Meanwhile, the poor and middle class stay trapped, working harder, paying more taxes, and consuming more liabilities. Robert starts to see that financial independence isn't about how much you earn. It's about how you manage what you earn. By consistently acquiring assets, your income grows without needing to trade time for it. That's the path to freedom. Rich Dad's diagram becomes a heart of Kiyosaki's philosophy, the cash flow quadrant, showing how people earn as employees, self-employed, business owners, or investors. Employees and self-employed trade time for money. Business owners and investors make systems and money work for them. The goal, Rich Dad says, is to move to the right side of that quadrant, to become an owner and investor. Robert realizes that wealth isn't measured in salary, but in time, how long you can live without working and still maintain your lifestyle. That's true freedom, and it begins with financial literacy and the discipline to grow your assets. As Robert matures, he understands that Rich Dad's real gift wasn't money. It was education. Not the kind you get in school, but the kind that teaches you how to think independently and manage risk. Rich Dad says, the biggest risk isn't losing money. The biggest risk is being unprepared. He explains that the world is full of opportunities, but most people never see them because they are blinded by fear. Fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing what they have. That's why financial education is crucial. It gives you the confidence to recognize and seize opportunities. Robert watches as people cling to job security, working hard to make their bosses rich. Meanwhile, those who understand money, investors and entrepreneurs, take calculated risks and build wealth for themselves. Rich Dad encourages Robert to take small, smart risks and learn from mistakes. Failure, he says, is part of success. Every time you fail, you learn. Every time you learn, you grow. Financial education also means understanding taxes, debt, and the power of corporations. The rich use these tools strategically. They know how to reduce taxes legally, use debt to acquire assets, and build companies that protect and grow their wealth. Meanwhile, the poor fear debt, avoid risk, and end up working for those who embrace both. Robert's takeaway is clear. Knowledge is the real asset. You don't need money to start. You need the mindset to see opportunities and the courage to act. The more financially educated you become, the less you fear losing because you know you can always rebuild. That's the difference between financial survival and financial freedom. By the end of his journey, Robert realizes that what separates the rich from everyone else isn't luck or inheritance. It's financial independence built on knowledge, mindset, and action. Rich Dad's lesson is that financial freedom means earning enough passive income from assets to cover your expenses. So your money works for you, not the other way around. Achieving this requires mastering three things: financial literacy, investment skill, and discipline. Robert explains that the path isn't quick or easy. It demands changing habits, spending less on liabilities, investing more in assets, and continually learning about money. The rich are lifelong learners, always expanding their understanding of markets and opportunities. He also reminds readers that true wealth includes giving back. When you understand how money works, you can empower others and create lasting impact for your family and community. In the end, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't just about money. It's about mindset. It challenges the belief that a high income equals wealth and instead shows that thinking and acting like the rich can lead to true freedom. The greatest takeaway: you are only poor if you give up. The difference between the rich and the poor is how they handle fear. This is the summary of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.